So Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, they finally had their big boxing match, which took place this past week. Highly anticipated bout between these two. It was initially supposed to take place back in July, but Mike Tyson had some big significant health issues, had an ulcer flare up back in July that he certainly had to tend to and address before they could ultimately meet in the ring. Now, we all know Mike Tyson, 58 years old. His prime is well behind him, but he is one of the most famous sports figures that I think we've ever had. And now Jake Paul has certainly risen in the ranks in terms of popularity. He's a YouTube sensation, a social media sensation, and he's been boxing for a number of years now and has been putting on a lot of these exhibition bouts that have gotten really popular over the years. And so, of course, these two meeting up, it just had a lot behind it. It had a lot of attention and I think a lot of just curiosity. This 31-year age gap, like how is this going to work? This was also the first live sporting event that Netflix was streaming, which was also, I think, a big drawing point for a lot of people. And so it all took place this past Saturday. It did stream live on Netflix. It took place at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Jerry World. And it reportedly was a huge success for Netflix. They just dropped the numbers and said that reportedly 60 million households tuned in to watch the main event fight, and viewership reached ultimately 65 million concurrent streams. That was the high for the night. And then additionally, on top of the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight, the co-main event of Serrano versus Taylor ultimately reached 50 million households, and Netflix claims that that is likely the most watched professional women's sporting event in U.S. history. And in person, the live gate was also extremely successful. It surpassed $18 million. Over 72,000 people were in attendance, which topped the live gate from the Canelo Alvarez fight in 2021, which had a $9 million gate. So all the numbers are there, all the metrics are there. But of course, I think the world was certainly tuning in to watch this. I know you watched a lot of it, if not all of it. So just want to start off and get your thoughts and reactions to everything that went down this weekend and everything you saw from Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
Man, there's so much here. As like you said, was such a big spectacle in terms of a pop culture event that was happening. And of course, American households, we tune in to big fights. Like that's just a thing people do. A lot of people don't watch boxing every day or every week, for that matter. A lot of people are like, "Oh, the big fight's coming up. Let's watch the big fight." But it's so interesting that Jake Paul has been kind of throwing these events little by little, building up kind of to this Mike Tyson fight, kind of picking more I guess crowd driven fights rather than something that seems like of merit, right? Like an upcoming boxer thing. He's like, I want to fight a celebrity, I want to fight this person, I want to fight that person. Is kind of how he's been structuring a lot of these fights. And so we've now gotten here from being all of these from Jake Paul winning for sure, but beating a lot of the previous contenders. Now he's fighting Mike Tyson, a legend and an icon in the boxing world. And it's just been so interesting to watch predictions and feedback and this new thing being on Netflix, a live event, and how it is all going to go down. And I want to say, from the Netflix point of view, man, they were kind of going through it, huh? Netflix was tearing up. Stream was going bad. It was almost never fully HD like I thought it was going to be. Like it was kind of cutting up. It was a disaster. It was bad. And it even beyond that, thinking about just the way people were working the room in Netflix's side by media coverage. I mean, we had Cedric the Entertainer. I don't know. It was just really interesting. Some of the people I think we were getting, I think, to talk before this fight happens. And to be honest, a lot of it was comedy, though. Like a lot of it had me laughing. I'm like, that's funny. This is funny. Shaq and Gronk are out in the middle of the just shooting the shit. It was a ton going on in that arena, and it felt like one of those, I don't know, just a random pop culture moment that felt like, man, I should not be taking this too seriously, and nobody else should be either. And by way of Paul versus Tyson in itself, it almost felt like, I love how a lot of people were rooting for Mike Tyson, even though we know Mike Tyson's old, even though we knew there was a lot stacked against him in this fight. We knew this was a big event, and I think it was interesting to see that, he oh shoot, did I get lost? Am I back?
Thank you. Yeah, I hear you now.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's
Now I
crazy.
hear you.
Okay, my internet's tweaking. Ooh wee.
All
Okay,
good.
I don't even remember where I was. Oh, I was talking about Tyson and Jake.
Yep.
But where
Yeah,
was I
that was
talking
the
about
last thing I
Tyson and
started to hear. You was about to get like
Jake?
right
Okay.
into it.
Okay. And by way of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, I love how everyone was rooting for Mike Tyson in particular, because everybody knows how old he is. He started boxing like 12 years before Jake Paul was even born. That's like a interesting thing to people, and I feel like that would have been interesting to anybody else except the killer that is Mike Tyson. Like if it wasn't Mike Tyson, we'd be like, oh man, this fight is why are we doing this? And I think we felt like that by the end of it anyway. Like, why are we doing this? Mike Tyson is old, but it was something like, man, Mike Tyson. Everybody was excited for Mike Tyson to potentially still have this fighting spirit and this dog in him to kind of surprise everybody and to come out on top. And unfortunately, of course, that wasn't the case. But I think I like how I like how fun it was. Still, again, even though it didn't turn out like that. I still like how everybody had that hope for some reason that Mike Tyson might randomly in round one come out and knock this dude out. Part of it is because I think a lot of people don't like Jake Paul, me included. I don't really like that dude. And two, it definitely the room. I don't know. It was giving a little Trump rally-ish at certain points. Like what's going on in this room? What's go? It's really weird here. But man, I say all that to say I think the big and the main event for me was definitely Taylor and Serrano. I love that fight. It was called wrong completely, but I think as a boxing match, it was phenomenal. One of the best boxing matches I have watched in a long time. I was really happy to see that that fight was very successful in viewership because wow, them ladies was boxing it out. Serrano put her whole heart in that boxing match, man. But yeah, what a crazy event! What a mess of an event! I can't believe it happened, but here we are.
In terms of the fight, listen, the fucking fix was in. Like, let's just throw it out there. The fix was in. This was obviously a complete work on the part of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. There was no real competitive anything happening here. These two,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, had some sort of gentleman's agreement about what this fight would be. And the fact that neither one of them would significantly hurt each other. Nobody would get knocked down. It wasn't going to go down like that. I mean, if you even really look
Mm-hmm.
at the fight and pay attention to it, in the first two rounds, Mike Tyson is coming out and he's swinging like old Mike. And it's like, uh-oh, he
Mm-hmm.
really might put Jake on his ass. And then everything significantly switches after the second round. Like the whole momentum of the fight is totally different. And I'm sure the two probably exchange words like, hey, man, remember what we talked about here. Calm down. This is all just like a big money play. It's an exhibition. Mike, you're walking away with 20 million. I'm getting 40 million. Like, be happy. And I have no problem with that. Like, we shouldn't expect otherwise for a man who's
Right.
58 years old. And the reality is, Mike Tyson, he is one of the most brutally honest, self-aware people in pop culture. Like if you really just listen to him, anytime he talks, anytime he does an interview, the guy is just so brutally honest about himself and his shortcomings and just the reality of situations. Like, I mean, I remember
Mm-hmm.
at the end of his career, like his last fight in '05, and how he just like explicitly said, like, I have no heart for this. I'm doing this for the check. I'm doing this to take care of bills. Like, I need the money. He said this like post fight as he's being interviewed. It's like all
Yep.
right there. And so this guy has always been very honest about like what this is all for. And, you know, he's 58. Like, of course, he's probably in need of money. Of course, he's probably wanting to ensure that his family and his kids are going to be okay. And why wouldn't he do it if he can hold up his body for 8 rounds, not get knocked down, not get hurt any significant in any significant way? Then yeah, he should do it. And of course, I think Jake is doing him to a degree a solid in putting this together because he is, you know, a part promoter and he can also bring in all the hoopla and all the celebrity attention and whatever, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
want to attach to it. So the fix was in and it's fine. You know, I think we shouldn't even be all that upset about it. You know, we shouldn't talk about,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Mike tarnished his legacy. No, he didn't. Like nobody's going to remember this. Nobody's going to care. Like it's all fine. Everything is still intact and still in place. In terms of the event itself,
Mm-hmm.
Netflix found out in real fucking time how difficult it is to produce live television. Like,
Yep.
wow, a streamer doesn't know how to do something that has been regularly done for, I don't know, what, 70 years now? They haven't figured it out. Like, this is really fucking hard to do. And I've even had the pleasure and like the, you know, fortunate circumstances to be a part of just like a couple of live television productions on a much, much smaller scale. And this shit is some of the most stress inducing stuff that you can do. Like, there are no
Yeah.
second takes. There's no safety net. Like you're flying blind almost, and anything can go wrong. And we saw what happened, the buffering issues, the streaming issues, that stuff has got to go. Like, we got 2 NFL games coming up on Christmas. And your beloved Chiefs are playing. Like, Beyonce just announced that she's going to be doing halftime during the
Yeah.
Texans game. This cannot happen. Like, because even more people are going to watch those games, I bet, than even watch this event. So they really have to get that in order. And I know they had issues even with like the Love Is Blind. I think it was a reunion like a year and a half ago or something like that. And everybody was complaining and had significant issues. So they gotta get that together, because this is just like, it's not a good look. Let's not forget to mention Raw is about to debut, and that is 52 weeks a year
Yeah.
that they're going to be
Soon.
producing live television. Now, of course, like, Raw's audience is going to be significantly smaller than this, and so I don't imagine bandwidth will be an issue, but still, you just don't want things like this regularly
Right.
happening for live events that are going to be produced. Like, Amazon's figured it out. I've seen NFL games on there. It's been flawless. Peacock with the Olympics coverage, like, it was pretty much flawless. Like, they really got to catch up and get their systems in play to handle this. But yeah, this was super successful. I mean, when you look at the numbers, like, I think for this year, this might be like the second most watched sporting event in America, for this year. Like, of course, the Super Bowl is number one. That had 124 million viewers, but the Olympics, they averaged about 30 million viewers a night. The World Series that just went off averaged about 15.8 million viewers a night. And the NBA Finals, it's at an all-time low right now. They averaged about 11 viewers through all the games. And so 60 million for this one event, it's incredible. It's an incredible, just showcase of their power and the flex. And then Serrano and Taylor getting 50 million views is also just like a really, really incredible thing that people tuned into this. I'm not in the camp that this was like a completely wrong call, though. I'm gonna be honest. Like, of course, the argument's there, but I think it's much, much closer than people give it credit for. Now, she did get that, that point deduction. That was like a big thing, and there was all that hoopla about the cut
after getting deducted.
But she's also a champion. But she's a champion, though. And champion's advantage is like a real thing when you're coming in trying to win away a title from a person who's been holding the belt for a long time. Like, that's always going to be. I mean, Serrano said it herself. She said she knew if it went to the scorecards, it was going to go downhill from there. If you leave it to the judges and you got a champion in place, like, and it wasn't like a clear, like, she didn't get dog walked. Like, this was a really close fight. Serrano landed a lot more punches, but I mean, it went a lot of ways in either direction in many of those rounds. And so I think either way, though, like, us as fans clearly won, because that was just like,
yeah, we won. That's
fantastic. Phenomenal
boxing.
Showcase. Yeah, and it might be fight of the year. And of course, calls for, I think, another rematch, eventually between those two ladies in the future. So this was huge. It was a huge, sort of showcase for everybody involved. I guess, just in terms of like Netflix and their future endeavors, like, what do you want to say just about like the things that they do have coming down the pipeline? Like, these 2 NFL games are like very important, and the Raw stuff is like very important. I mean, the whole live endeavor, that they're now tackling again, like, Amazon's been doing it already for a couple of years. The NBA is about to take a huge big leap really soon, with a lot of their games are going on these streaming platforms. So Netflix is placing all of this. What do you envision, and sort of what do you hope to see from them, as they move ahead?
Yeah, more than anything, I just hope they learned a lot from this Paul Tyson night. Again, they've been slowly trying to work in these live events leading up to this, and I think they're constantly being tested on what live events for them was going to look like. But I think they'll learn a lot from this, and hopefully these Christmas football games are like a good turnout, because I think the viewership is still going to be crazy on a lot of these. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to go to Netflix to watch people watch Christmas or football on Christmas. That's what they do. Thanksgiving and Christmas are huge football, really sports, basketball and football times. And so, even though, even we were just talking about Raw, it's not going to be this many people week to week. That first day is probably going to be pretty crazy. Everybody's going to want to see, like, oh, what is wrestling going to look like on this platform? And I feel like a lot of people are going to be watching it. So I feel like they got to get it together for these events. But I think I see the vision, and I see potential for success. And I'm still excited for what's to come for them. Again, there's an advantage here, it being on Netflix, is anybody around the world can check these things out. But I think that also makes it just as hard, in that a lot of people also don't have to kind of come into contact with, is everybody in the world isn't doesn't necessarily have a Prime Video subscription, but everybody in the world definitely has a Netflix subscription. So I think once they find and overcome those hurdles, and they can figure out how to workshop again the things that went wrong in this particular event, I think they'll be okay. We'll just have to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I think yeah, these NFL games are going to be they're going to be really tough. Yeah, I mean because so many people have Netflix and there's just I mean you have like the biggest teams facing off against each other, like all winning teams. Beyonce just announced, so people are just going to tune in just for that. You know,
And
all the
Beyonce,
all the women who are not watching for the game at all, they don't give a fuck about the
they're
first two
watching
quarters.
now.
They're going to be
Yep.
watching to see what she's going to do and what she's going to perform. I mean the viewership is going to be ridiculous for this, and so
Hmm.
again you just don't want this to go down in this way. And also, like, I will say a benefit of those future productions from the NFL and from WWE, like those are such well-oiled machines from a production standpoint. Like WWE is doing its own thing, the
Yeah.
NFL is doing its own thing. Netflix pretty much put this whole thing together, and I think it reflected that the randomness of it all. Like this very much felt
Yeah.
like, hey, big new tech company in the social media era is like trying to figure out how to put together a live event, which is why you get random commentators. Like,
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I love Rosie Perez.
Yeah.
She had no fucking business doing commentary for the whole night. Like, sorry, she just did not need to be there. She's a huge fan, but she added little to nothing to the commentary team. The random celebrity appearances, like very random shit. So I think you just need like more well-oiled machines that just like know how to they just know the kinks of all this stuff, and they know how it all works, and they know the ins and outs, and they're going to put together a really well refined machine, for the whole night. And that's what I think both WWE and NFL bring. And so they should be okay, but they do have to get the technology together. But we'll see in a couple of months here when all
Mhm.
of those things come to the platform very, very soon. But those are all of our thoughts on the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. Of course, if you check it out, definitely hit us up and let us know what you think.